Acceptance, the Language of Recovery by Jeff Rounds. Chapter 5, The Toxic Cycle. Patterns and Signs. Most human behavior forms predictable patterns which can be identified with self-awareness. The subconscious mind is very powerful, and without a thought, we repeat thousands of behaviors daily, completely unaware that we have the option to change. When people become attached, that creates a state of denial, which is resistant to change. The ego seeks comfort, stability, and effortlessness. However, life in a civilized world is none of those things. The toxic cycle can occur at any time we want something we cannot have. Attached to how we want things to be, we ignore the warning signs that we are engaging in something harmful. Like a moth drawn to a hot light, the toxic cycle is one of the most common patterns of abuse, reaching every aspect of life and only requiring one person to participate. Yet this pattern is especially common in romantic and financial relationships. How the toxic cycle looks in a relationship. 1. Honeymoon phase. The toxic cycle begins with an invitation. Welcome to my world. False positives are given, feeding the ego and creating the illusion of acceptance and value. I like you, and I am like you. Often in this stage, victims receive some type of benefit that accommodates their deeper unresolved issues. 2. Tensions build. Trouble begins as the cycle becomes less rewarding and compromises are made to accommodate the abuser. The neglected subjects convince themselves that it's not that bad, and they may stay in the relationship hoping for improvements. 3. Abuse. An incident occurs which may include some or all of the following: verbal abuse, accusations, threats, punishment, disapproval, gaslighting, physical harm, anger and hostility, passive aggression, and the silent treatment. 4. Reconciliation. Apologies are made with no or short-term changed behaviors. They may be empty promises made, little or no accountability mixed with excuses, gentle gaslighting, minimizing, and false positives. If effective, the process begins again and there is another honeymoon phase. It's important to recognize the presence of intentions and how they affect the toxic cycle. With the very best of intentions, people in denial can become very toxic to others. There are also those who genuinely intend harm because their narcissism has become sociopathic. It does not matter whether someone intends harm. The longer we remain in this cycle, the more damage it causes. If and when things become hostile and angry words are shared, note that this is when people are frequently at their most honest and reveal many things about themselves. When under verbal attack, remember that every accusation is a confession. We paint other people with our own issues, and the negative outward talk is a direct reflection of the negative self-talk we are experiencing. Understand that we shame others for the qualities we cannot accept in ourselves. Example: you are lazy and worthless. Equals: I struggle with the desire to be lazy and feel worthless even though I tell myself I'm better than you. The toxic cycle functions very much like an addiction. The longer we stay, the more painful, difficult, and frightening it is to leave. Filled with fear, we can become attached to the idea that we cannot live without someone or something, and that we are trapped because of everything we stand to lose. We regain our personal power and self-respect when we can accept all the losses and leave the situation in spite of our fears. As with everything, acceptance only occurs following surrender, and we need to let go and surrender to the feeling of loss and grief. Applying intentional grieving can give us strength, understanding, and acceptance we need to move towards our truer selves. The terms below describe patterns that are intertwined as parts of the toxic cycle. Identifying these patterns in ourselves and others is useful to our recovery, and learning to identify and avoid abuse can lead to more inner peace and self-respect. The confidence game. Many people, unwilling to change, apply the techniques that allow them to benefit disproportionately from the kindness of others. The toxic cycle begins with an invitation, the promise of some reward. People who use others often start a relationship with compliments, offers, and favors, creating a false sense of security. This is called the confidence game, meaning, I give you my confidence, and I believe in you so that later I can abuse you. Later, when the trust is broken, the victim is blamed. With the best of intentions, people use each other, and with this pattern frequently. Love bombing. This is a variation of the confidence game, though considered more affectionate. Again, using compliments to butter someone up, people looking for attention will create the illusion of acceptance and admiration. Sadly, these positive messages are being exaggerated for personal gain. Later, negative comments will be used to maintain control or end the relationship when it no longer has any value to the abuser. Yeah, but when someone speaks of their problems as though they want help and then rejects all reasonable suggestions using excuses for avoiding growth, they are in an ego trap, and it is unlikely there is anything anyone can do to help them at that moment. When we are in denial, people become excuse factories, and we tell other people the reasons we cannot change. It's natural to say, yeah, but, when we are not ready to change. The roller coaster. Addicted to drama, some people often experience mood swings, and in the absence of any real problems, they may invent some. When people have difficulty making decisions, it often means they do not yet have enough emotional information to complete the grieving process. The behaviors of people with high levels of bargaining are often erratic and confusing to others. The bargaining sounds like maybe this or maybe that, and is represented by an inability to make and stick to decisions, which results in a roller coaster of drama. The repeat offender. Many people unable to change become chronic complainers and find that the acceptance they receive from others when they complain is enough emotional relief so that they can maintain the harmful behavior indefinitely. Complaining about the same person, place, thing, or situation repeatedly is another ego trap. This is a variation on the excuse factory. Plausible deniability. One of the most common forms of deceit is what would some call white lies. Plausible deniability is creating an excuse that is convincing and reasonable, though it is not the truth at all. Some people lie constantly and seem to master the art of getting away with it simply because they present convincing lies. Recognizing the lies requires noticing how the words and behaviors do not match up. Plausible deniability is supplying a reasonable excuse for behavior that denies or minimizes harm and makes it sound like the intentions are good and not bad. Example: I wasn't picking my nose, just scratching it. Trapped. This is a common mentality of people in one or many toxic cycles. When the loss seems too great, people will often convince themselves that the things they are attached to are more important than they really are, and those things cannot be left behind. The bargaining can be maddening for someone trying to decide how to behave when deep down they already know life is unmanageable for them. I cannot leave because I will lose too much. Trapped is an illusion that can only be seen from the other side of grieving and acceptance. The costs of staying are usually greater than a perceived loss, but until we leave the situation, it is too difficult to see the truth. The excuse factory. When people are unwilling to change, they have an excuse to protect every problem in their lives. They become the victim. They are not doing anything wrong. Everything they try doesn't work. It is always someone else's fault. Whenever they are given a suggestion, they tell the same excuses that they have been telling themselves and expose the non-acceptance of the bargaining mind. When we are resistant to change, we will make excuses until the harm is so great our choices are limited and we are forced to change or remain in survival mode until we do. Butthurt baby. When humans are filled with shame, we can become gaslighting experts, intuitively knowing which emotions to play on so that we can constantly have our needs met. When caught or challenged, people in denial will often take their ball and go home, with a "if I can't have it, no one can" attitude. Punishing others and projecting outward is a temporary relief from shame and responsibility, and empowers us as abusers until our emotions and consequences catch up to us. Crocodile tears. Many people can fake tears and often do at funeral proceedings or in court. Fake tears are intended to draw concern and sympathy from others and to present as an empathetic person when in truth they are overcompensating and acting. It is a common form of manipulation and an invitation to the toxic cycle. Bully on the playground. On rare occasions, it is possible to end a toxic cycle quickly and create an opportunity for change by setting a boundary. When someone in denial causes harm, if it is addressed immediately and with great force, they may be shamed enough to recoil and adapt. By setting boundaries and expressing dominance, we may be able to convert a bully into a friend. I know what you are doing, and it stops now or the relationship ends, is the ultimate message. Being ready, willing, and able to leave the relationship is a matter of self-respect. Another possibility is to approach the same situation with kindness and acceptance, setting the exact same boundary. The difference is in what feels honest to us. If we are unhealed, it is likely we will need to express anger to assert ourselves. However, if we no longer possess any attachment to the behavior and have reached acceptance, the statement may sound like this: I know what you are doing, and I understand. I have done that myself, and I do not fault you. I need to take care of myself, though, so please understand I am no longer willing to participate in that behavior. Gold diggers. Some people perpetually and constantly use other people. The gold digger normally has something to offer with an often increasing price tag. Whatever they possess that is desired becomes a weapon and a tool for manipulation. Sex, money, help, and support are tools a gold digger may use to manipulate a victim and avoid personal consequences. Damsel in distress. This may represent the beginning of a long-term gold digger relationship and is not gender related. Using crocodile tears, dramatic physical gestures, and signs of trouble to lure enablers to their rescue, the damsel in distress is another form of toxic cycle. A person who helps is now in the mark in a confidence game that sounds like, I am desperate and I need your help. You are so wonderful. Thank you for saving me. Grifters. This is a term used to describe professional or habitual con artists, masters of the confidence game. Many of these people are sociopathic and lean towards criminal thinking and behaviors, always looking for opportunities to apply their talents and apply the confidence game. Smart mouth. Some people specialize in a form of abuse that is passive-aggressive and demeaning. With a voice inflection that may sound caring and sincere, they seem to intuitively know how to say the most offensive things in disguise. Using the common tactics of gaslighting and manipulation, people who have low self-esteem focus on the faults of others and point them out, giving themselves a sense of superiority. The high road. Ego loves to feel self-righteous and be better than other people in some way. Having discovered a fatal flaw in another person, some people will often point out the shortcoming in an attempt to bolster their own ego. At least I am not that bad is the overall message, and it can be very destructive behavior. In order to overcome the tendency to engage in the toxic cycle, we need to identify and heal our own character defects and resentments. Only through increased awareness and willingness to change can we escape our pre-programmed patterns of harmful behavior. In most cases, it means identifying what we wanted from the toxic relationship and learning to replace that desire with one that is healthier for us. Change often means a death of ego, the loss of a former version of ourselves, and a willingness to do something different than we have in the past. Have faith, knowing that these painful losses will end in peaceful rewards, whereas staying in a toxic cycle only guarantees more abuse and eventual abandonment.